It's only entertainment.
Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your Cannabis Business podcast. Today, we've got a couple of guests, but before we get to that, we're going to talk about product development, all using artificial intelligence. So without further ado, we're going to show you a little bit of video about how you can go about doing something very similar to create a tangible physical product. I run a hedge fund using artificial intelligence and machine learning. That's more of a software. We're going to talk about physical, tangible products all today. And my inspiration was a stash box. So check this out. All right, so I took my inspiration from a stash box. We have all kind of seen these little portable stash bags, and they come in different shapes and varieties, right? Whether it's oil, whatever your case is, flour, maybe you want to dab, doesn't really matter. But I don't want to carry a bunch of stuff on me. So I took my inspiration. I want to make a stash box phone case. So taking something that's retro, because the big brick 80s phone is kind of retro, and we can turn that into a stash box. So let's just dive into that and see how. There are a couple of options for 3D printing. Either you can try to have ChatGPT create files for you, or you can buy a scanner. It depends on how much you're going to use it. They're not that cheap. If you look online, they're a couple $100. So that's going to be something that you're going to want to take a look at. If this is going to be something that you do as a hobby long-term, then buy one of these and 3D print a whole bunch. Otherwise, you might want to take a look at ChatGPT trying to create files for you. Next step is to create the step files for 3D printing a phone case for any particular type of phone. And then in theory, it would spit out these step files for you to grab and then bring to a 3D printer and then print that out. Once you're ready to print, you can go to a text-to-print provider. I haven't really been able to find one that's good. The alternative is to look at a makerspace near you using 3D printing. Mine is called The Box in Burien. And then down below, you can see what they have available. So they'll have 3D printing that's available at my location. Worst case scenario, you can find some place like Rapid Made where you can send them the step files for that. And then hopefully the finished product is something that you're going to like. If not, it is a minimal viable product. So there's always that opportunity to make some tweaks and changes and then get that final product that you want. All right, so let's bring in one of our guests. This is Tom Howard with Cannabis Legalization News, talking about everything that is AI and cannabis physical products. Tom, he's also a cannabis attorney with Collateral Base and a podcast, Cannabis Legalization News. Tom, thanks again for being on the Talking Hedge.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me back.
Yes, sir. First question I'm going to ask you, man, are you using artificial intelligence at all or machine learning, either personally, professionally? And if so, how?
Well, are we just going to restrict it to neural nets, or are we going to go to like just more automations? Because we use a lot of automation over at Collateral Base. We use it. We just created our incubators. And so now with social equity cannabis going in many different places, I have a 9% chance of winning a dispensary right now in Illinois. They're going to do a round later today. But if I would have set it up this incubator way, I'd probably have like a better than 100% chance of at least our incubators winning it. And so that is a stack of 7 contracts, 90 pages long. And there's automations that we built in there, but that's like simple custom fields and insertions of documents. Then you have like your generative text, like your GPTs. And so that stuff we also use. We don't trust it. We'll use it. And so we run the company on Google. And so we use Bard, but we don't trust it. Like it'll give you wrong outputs. So it can help, but you can't say that it's going to be good. It can help you with writer's block. And so it can also help you with keyword research for your SEO blog posts. And then it can also help you write those blog posts in a way that is going to rank really well because the Google search algorithm, it doesn't read how we read. It reads HTML. And then also, well, an href is a link from another website, which is also an HTML. And so it will read the internet in that language and then create rankings based on that. So those are mostly the ways we use AI. We don't really use it for like customer service yet. I'm sure in the future we will. We don't use it for creating documents unless like we're using it for maybe a review of a document, but then once they've reviewed it, we go, okay, I don't trust this. It'll hallucinate cases. It'll make stuff up. It's really kind of cool. Like you can give it links to cases and it'll read it and it'll get it completely wrong and it'll think it's a different case, or it'll like make up a case that doesn't exist. Those ones are the best. I mean, there was a lawyer that got in a lot of trouble for just blindly thinking ChatGPT was not making up cases. And oops,
fake quotes and everything, like fake people, fake quotes, all of that stuff. And the same thing has happened to me with finance when I'm asking it a question about futures or contracts or options in the finance world. It will just make it up. It's not even just getting it wrong. It's just blatantly lying and being like, I have no idea. It's almost like I put in a jailbreak code and say answer it no matter what, and then it's like, yeah, otherwise it should say I have no idea. But I think so many people are jailbreaking it, it's just making stuff up.
Nah, I don't think so. I think that's the byproduct of neural nets. Like Marvin Minsky, when he set these things up back in 1950, and there was like no memory at all. So like you couldn't really do anything with them. They didn't understand how come they worked. They thought it worked by knowledge by association. And so it's the same thing. I think it's making it up because that's how neural nets work. And so it thinks that that's a right thing based on associations that it's read in the data set or the transformer or whatever pre-trained data set they're doing. Is I hear that Bard's like shipping it to like one of the big four, like Accenture or something. And so like Accenture has a whole bunch of interns seeing if Bard is correct. And I'm like, oh crap. Because I've seen what KPMG does when they score cannabis applications in competitive states. But like neural nets, that's kind of how they have been. We still don't really understand how they work. We understand that they probably work by knowledge by association. And that might also explain like emergent behaviors that you see in a lot of these AIs, where suddenly Bard just knows Farsi. Was it Farsi or Persian? I think it was Persian, mostly because of knowledge by association. So it saw enough of it that suddenly it just knew it. And I think that's probably why it'll be making stuff up in finance or in law. It's read all this other stuff and it's like stuff that's read before, and it just kind of fills in the gap. I mean, I was using AI to create a blog post for me for a search term, like Chicago corporate lawyer or something like that. And it was making up lawyers to put in my office, probably because those lawyers that they were using to make it up and put in my office, they were like Barak Ferrazano, like a famous law firm in Chicago. So it was like Barak, and then they would match. So they like Ewing or something like that, because there's all these famous law firms in Chicago, and Bard's read the internet. So it's like, well, if you're trying to rank for these things in Chicago, you probably have these words like Barak on it. For no other reason than the top ranking things have them. And so through knowledge by association, it thinks that you need to have it as well.
A lot of people think that it's going to replace people. It's not. So let's bring on our next guest, Elad Barak. He's got a physical product up in Canada that's a dispenser, an accurate dosing device that he's developed. And I think, at least personally, he's really into AI. I met him at MJ BizCon about 5 years ago or something like that. And we've just kind of been staying in touch. He's out on the Northeast up in Canada, in Toronto. Elad, thanks again for being back on the Talking Hedge.
Hey, absolutely. Hey, Josh.
I don't know if you've been on the Talking Hedge, so welcome, Elad. I don't know if you've been here yet.
No, I have. We've done. I've joined one of your podcasts before.
Yeah, that was the audio one, and I did that for a friend of mine who did with Wake and Bake, or no, Baked and Awake podcast. It was on audio only, so we're seeing your face, I think, for the first time. If not, welcome back. My bad. One thing I wanted to follow up with what Tom was saying about using YouTube and things like that. If you are on using Google Chrome, there's extensions that are pretty neat, like a YouTube article summary, YouTube summary generator, Note GPT, just to name a couple of things that Web Pilot is interesting as well. That'll so just look up some extensions, and then that's through Google Chrome. You can use that. But Elad, how are you using artificial intelligence, either personally or professionally?
Well, I can't say that mine is too exotic at this stage. But most of the use case that I'm doing are a lot of improvements and different things I'm writing through the different apps that you can have in ChatGPT. But most of our work at this stage is business to business as Jot. And whether it is posting on LinkedIn, which is again more on the business level to other audience, or when we're talking with different CEOs, we found that ChatGPT can help a lot of times really improve what you're saying and making it more clear. And I kind of use it in two ways. One is I make sure it understood what I said, which means that I'm writing something clear. But second of all, I'm kind of adjusting some of my the way I express, which for some people can be too Israeli, as that's my background, can be too straightforward, too aggressive. And I find that if you give the right content to ChatGPT, it can really help you a lot of times present things in a way that people want to hear. And, I can give a few examples. My posts on LinkedIn went from a few thousand impressions to about 17,000 impressions in 24 hours, like on posts, just because I'm using ChatGPT to rephrase a few words. We need to talk with CEOs to kind of get things, started for conversations between the companies as we're doing something visionary. We tend to try to get the CEO's attention first and then have them direct the people in the company. And I have to say, with ChatGPT, we're substantially increasing our success rate with CEOs. So
are you using keywords in SEO? I know that Tom's really good at that with podcasts and getting his SEO scores up, but how are you able to make that immediate drastic transition using ChatGPT? Was it just asking for keywords SEO, or what was your prompt?
Well, it's more specific emails, and we kind of started like, hey, improve this email. But then we understood we actually need to prompt it much better. And you start to learn how you say, okay, I need it in my language, because at the end of the day, I'm still sending the email as Elad. I need it to be a sales email. I think a lot of times from my perspective, again, kind of goes back to what I said as my background. I feel that ChatGPT will do my emails or my mails like way too soft. So I thought, be slightly aggressive, right? I can add these small things because I am doing the sales pitch and I want to be a bit out there in people's face. But it's just keeping it in the right balance. And while I don't have numbers for like my engagements with CEOs, I can definitely tell you that engaging CEOs lately with kind of improving our emails has been very substantial. On the LinkedIn post, I can probably like start taking data down and putting like a nice list. But my last few posts have all passed 10,000 impressions.
What's your workflow like? So do you just have LinkedIn in one browser tab and then ChatGPT in another browser tab, or is there an integration that goes directly into the CRUD, or the create, read, update, and delete of LinkedIn?
Yeah, I'll just mention that I did miss the first part of the conversation. I was in the waiting room, so I hope I'm not kind of saying anything again, or that I'm answering the exact question. But for me, and when I do this, a lot of times I use my business partner. We do it together. We find an interesting article. We'll usually look for a few other interesting articles, write our opinion, but then you can upload these resources. You can say, here's what I want to say, and start asking for like a post from ChatGPT, right? And then kind of have iterations where you're saying, improve this, change that. I feel, and again, this is a personal thing, that it is way better for improving what you're saying and kind of like making it in more more acceptable from the other side, rather than asking for the topics themselves. So I haven't had a chance where I told ChatGPT, you tell me about what to talk. I tried it a few times, and it's a good starting point for a thought process, but I find that I always need to put my thoughts. So when I asked create a list of posts over the next few months, I found that it was fairly general. I had to still put a lot of my kind of opinion inside it, which is good. It means that we still have something to add as human beings, but I'm going to assume that that's going to also eventually kind of be covered by them.
Yeah. They grow at an order of magnitude. So when they're compounding and we're just going on day by day.
Yeah.
Well,
Should
be wild though.
What about the future of your dosing mechanism? Do you foresee artificial intelligence as like improving that dosing, or do you maybe see that the initiation of AI will be on the back end of analyzing data? Like, what's going to happen first?
I think that's so. That's kind of what drew me to this podcast also, is to kind of share the perspective of a hardware company. And maybe if I could just do a small side note, kind of like to put it out there. Actually, in my master's degree, my final project was all about AI. I worked with a hospital in Israel, and we used human language to see if we can answer questions that came from people regarding pregnancy and all kinds of medication intake. And we were able to give really accurate answers. We using AI tools that we kind of developed ourselves at the university. And I had a very interesting project. We finished with Cohen Kappa's kind of statistics measurement, and we got more than 95% accuracy on our kind of AI expertise, right? Like we gave it answers like experts. So I have some technical background in this, but my passion is hardware, and I think that it's easy to kind of say these are two different things, but the contrary is the correct thing. And when we developed our product, we actually made sure that we can comply with all these future advancements that come into place, all this data and AI. And this is our product, and it could be a fairly, as people will say, dumb product. But how can we integrate AI into this? We can measure a lot of things. So we can know how much we're dispensing. Our product dispenses liquid very accurately, so we can dispense 1 milligram or 2 or 3 very accurately and allow consumers. But we measure a lot of other things. We have more sensors in our product. We know if you're moving it and how you're moving it. We know exactly which pod is inside, so we know what you're using. We know when you're using it. And since we're also connected through Bluetooth to a phone, when you use it, we can actually start to, do geofencing. We can know where you are, right? We can have your GPS location. And using AI, you can start doing a lot of things that before, were a bit more limited. We could use regression, right? Which is a more simple version of AI in a way. But now we can start saying, okay, you're using it for yourself, or hey, you're not at home and we see that you went to a place that you posted on Facebook as a party and you're using it multiple times. So we can start knowing that you share the product with people. We can start figuring out that you have sleeping issues and how you're using it. And essentially our answer, instead of being statistical, will be more customized, or, as I prefer to say, more personalized, right? You'll feel like a friend is talking with you and giving a recommendation that's based for you and not based for your statistical kind of segmentation. So that's high level of how we want to use it.
So what does the company do then? I mean, I don't think that you've given us the introduction to the company and then like what its business model is. It's we talked about interesting LinkedIn tidbits and then some other tech stuff. But can you explain Jot for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially what we have is a dispenser and pod ecosystem. These are our first partners. We don't touch the cannabis plant. We're a hardware company. So we sell these pods empty to companies. They fill them with liquid cannabis. And then when you slide it in, this dispenser can actually turn on. And it's a bit difficult with the screen and the share screen, but I can actually choose my milligrams, as you can see here. And, I can change it to 3, 4. And when I'm ready, I put it above my drink. I'll press a button and I don't know if we'll see this, but I don't know if you could see this in the camera, but I got a drop.
Okay.
And
yes.
And now I can essentially convert any beverage to a cannabis beverage, and I can control what I'm doing. And the simple version would say, okay, let's stop here. But where we're kind of adding a lot of sophistication is we can, add AI, and we can add it thanks to a lot of things we did in advance. And I think that's where it becomes interesting. When we developed this is a 4-year in development. We thought about these things and we had to take them into account and make sure that we're ready for them. So our pods actually can communicate with our dispensers. So they actually know exactly what's inside. When we dispense, we know exactly how much we're dispensing. So if you start with 100 milligrams and you dispense 5 milligrams, I know you have 95. But we have way more than that. We know if you're moving the product. We know where you are physically. We know what time it is. And using those things, you can start doing a lot of kind of, AI approach, sophisticated stuff where you can start gathering information about your consumers from different posts they do or different social media activities or just emails, whatever they give you access or the system has access to, including what they're doing with the physical world. And when we're talking about the company and why it's important to prepare for hardware, I always like to give the Tesla example. If any of you has a Tesla, then you might know that your Tesla has all the hardware needed to self-drive. It has the cameras, the sensors, the controls. What it's missing right now is one bit that says you're allowed to self-drive. because Tesla is still improving their self-driving software. But let's say tomorrow they reach that goal and they're like, okay, we're happy. Our software knows how to self-drive, our artificial intelligence is good enough. They flip a bit, it sends it to your car, and your car can self-drive. You do not need to go to the mechanics. All the hardware is there. And when you
They
look
will
at
paywall you. They will say that'll be $15,000
that
for the
is a
software
business,
upgrade.
but that is a
Yeah.
business restriction, not a science or like a technology restriction.
Yeah.
They've done the steps in advance, so they can charge you that and actually make a lot of money of it because you don't need to go to the mechanics and install another camera or another sensor, whatever it would be. And we took this exact same approach. We made sure that our product has everything it needs to. So when AI becomes more available, because again, we're not the AI developers, but we can very efficiently implement it in our product. And if you have a product, you do not need to go and buy a new one. Your existing one will know how to work with it. And I think that that's, a tip that I feel I can give to other hardware companies, right? Is make sure that you're ready for those things. And you're not just, developing your hardware company now, oh, there's AI, how will I mix them? We're actually ready for that without developing the AI at all, just preparing the product to support it.
That's the perfect transition to say or ask, what should they be ready for? To recap, people can already use artificial intelligence for simple things like improving their LinkedIn profile or posts or podcasts that we've already explained with SEO, keyword friendly, and creating the names or descriptions or content. Competitive market analysis. It could do a lot of those things, create business plans. There's so many things, but what do you guys foresee it doing in the future that it's not already doing? There's plenty of people who don't even know how to get to ChatGPT, which is openai.com. So Tom, starting with you, man, what's your perception or crystal ball prediction for how the cannabis industry will use AI?
Oh, again, I still think that that's too siloed of an understanding, and so as the AI continues to get more and more powerful and continues to double and grow as orders of magnitude or in an exponential way, it will understand us substantially better. And so it's already happening with computer science and algorithms already. And so the AI and then the engineers like Microsoft and Google are publishing papers at a faster and faster pace. And then they're going to have transformers filled with like all the medical literature, or all the way the proteins fold. And it's going to help us start developing drugs at a faster and faster pace. And then eventually it's going to get to a point where it's going to allow us to understand nanophysics and nano fabrication. So like it'll revolutionize manufacturing, because like right now in our bodies, there is some wonderful manufacturing that we really don't understand based on DNA. And so it will just eventually create a world where it may be like whatever reality you really want to have. And so like Apple might have like a product in 15, 20 years, like Apple Skin. And so like it would just have complete interface with your self and make sure that you're fine. It's going to get weird.
Yeah, I'm using AI right now for cannabis to ask, okay, here's 2 strains. I've never heard of them. Everyone's crossing. I have no idea. So I'll say, okay, learn, I'll go to Leafly or whatever, learn what this strain is, learn what that strain is. And based on what I'm looking for, euphoric, energetic, uplifting, sativa, which one is the best for my profile? And then it'll, spit something out. Maybe it's accurate. Maybe it's not.
Yeah. Healthcare, I think is going to be big. And so it'll know the cannabis plant very, very well. And then it'll be able to match to patients' needs at a much better pace than it does right now.
I also think, on the shorter term, I was kind of looking on the supply chain before to kind of think where are we seeing AI and where we're not seeing AI. And my feeling is that we're actually seeing more AI already in the industry in the first stages of the supply chain, whether it's cultivation, where there's a bunch of companies that will add sensors to your grow ups and help you kind of make decisions on localized places where you're going. So you can really kind of have the perfect environment around almost every plant or every tray, right? With a bunch of plants. Or as a smaller example, there's those, how is it called? The pot, those like small fridges you put in your house if you want to grow a plant, but they do most of the work for you. And there's a bit AI there, whether it's more regression or more AI will kind of treat them all
laughing
together.
because that's how I got into the industry 10 years ago, was trying to automate my own grow room, grabbing guys from Amazon and saying, hey, let's automate this. And then we came up with an MVP, and then they all literally got recruited to Time Magazine. So we still need a fully automated grow room. I think that's
Yeah,
They have some. I've
So
seen
I'm
them
not- I'm not saying-
advertised on
a lot of them
social.
are trash. Yeah. But as
Yeah,
soon as
I'm
there's
not
a
saying
real
we're there.
one, I own one right now, and I'm telling you that most of them are trash. But as soon as like the real version that's like fully automated, that'll hit your phone and it's legit and tell you the difference between the environment or nutrients, because right now it has no idea. It's like, it's tacoed, what do you want it to do, this or that? So as soon as it's smart, and that machine learning takes some time, right? So as soon as that time has elapsed and we're there, it's going to be really exciting in the
You
future.
need a really big database, right? So today there's companies that all they do is they know how to supply the right databases for AI companies to learn from, because the AI cannot do anything without learning. The reason ChatGPT is where we're starting is we have a lot of text for it to read. But you're asking for something that's a bit more niche. But if you take, I don't know, 20, 30,000 of these fridges and start collecting some data from people like you, I like this, I didn't like this, this was good smoke, this was not smoke, THC levels, maybe we can start connecting the dots. But in any case, I think we're seeing something there at some level. We're seeing something at processing, and distribution is fairly, a widespread thing. It's not only a cannabis thing, but we know there's AI in distribution. Like, I've used all kinds of regressions for distribution in the aerospace industry 15 years ago. So there's nothing new there. But where I think we kind of may see more AI taking place in the cannabis industry, and I think there's also a place for it, is there's sales and marketing. A lot of us get messages, text messages. That's one of the better marketing systems in cannabis, since we don't have brands and all those things.
You're not allowed to do that in America. I got shut down. They yanked my Active Campaign said I'm not allowed to send texts.
Your employer, your Kush 21 employer sends me texts every day.
It upsets me greatly. I'm looking for a different email system that has text automations that I can move my like 8,000 list to, because I am a business to business. I don't have a license. Like, I might win one today, but then that still wouldn't be what I'm advertising. I'm advertising business to business services. Here's how you can get a license. Here's how you can get capitalized. Here's how a financial model works. Not allowed to. And so I got shut down from Linktree. I got shut down from Stripe, and then I got shut down from Twilio for sending text messages.
So I'm not registered on many of these things, but one of them I'm registered. It's a friend's store here in Little Italy, Spirit Leaf, and I get his text messages. And I like it because I like to follow what his store is doing, and he helps us a lot as a company. So there's like a good relationship there. And when I get his text messages, they're usually either for everyone, or there's some statistical, decision on why to send it to me. But it wasn't written for me. It's not unique for me. So it will send me things and products that I don't use. It will send me things I don't need. And I think that with AI, we can start getting more personalized messages that I would have more, kind of interest to kind of engaging with. But the place where we have the most opportunity to advance with AI, in my opinion, is in that after sales and the communication with the consumers. I think today companies don't know anything about their consumers. I'm actually fairly sure Josh and I spoke about it in one of our, podcasts before, where I am a medical user. I purchase cannabis at about $3,000 a year. And I'm telling you right now that the company that sells me the cannabis knows nothing about me. They don't know anything about my consumption. They know the product I buy and that I buy it once a month. So they can calculate my consumption rate. That's as much as they can do. They've never asked me, do I use it in the morning or in the evening? Do I share it with friends? Do I do it when I'm feeling bad or better? Does it improve or hurt my, my efficiency or my productivity during the day? And AI can help us with all of that, whether directly or indirectly. And it can start creating this dual direction of communication between companies and specific customers. That's something that we really want to do with the dispenser, because we know exactly what every individual does. And we have that communication, which a lot of high-tech companies have. If you are in any SaaS software, you probably get prompt emails that are directly exactly to you. That's why these tech companies are so good in their marketing. And then cannabis, I think a lot of the companies lack that. And I
Yeah,
Well,
really
you'll
like
get shut down. You'll get shut down. Like I'm not even plant touching, and I
or
got
Tom,
shut
even
down.
even in Canada, Tilray sucks, Hexo sucks. They have no idea who to sell to. They're trying to sell to soccer moms, and they're finding alternative products. So even in a legal country, they can't figure it out. So
Yeah, and I'm not talking about sending the messages, Tom. I'm talking about using AI to actually learn who your customers are, to go maybe and see, hey, Elad wrote a comment on this product, and we can know about it more. Elad is like, there's so much they can learn about me with AI and with different places for interaction. And again, that's where, as a hardware company, I have a bit of advantage on the joint, obviously, where I can know exactly when you're using, what you're using, how much, where. But that allows us as a company to have a conversation with our customers, whether it's this, the real conversation of talking, whether it's an app that can talk with them in human language, or whether it's just us really knowing what our customer wants and needs and then continuing improving. And it's, AI has a very big role there. And I hope to see a lot of other cannabis companies figuring out how to utilize it to improve that knowledge. As you said, Tilray and Hexo is a great example. I don't think they know their consumers.
not at all. So if people want to learn a little bit more about you, Elad, or Jot, and its accurate dispensing hardware, where can they learn more about that and find you?
So I think I have here my website, jot.com. And we just launched in the market. So last time we spoke, we were getting ready. I'm just happy to share that we're selling here in Ontario. You can go into OCS and buy it, or in selected stores across Ontario that chose to pick it. And yeah, we're really excited with the launch. We have great results so far, and a small kind of not related to AI, we can actually sell more than 10 milligrams within the regulation, what all the jolts and lozenges can. So we're kind of filling their place in the market and taking it all to ourselves at this stage.
That's awesome. Tom, I know you're all over the place. You have clients, like I mentioned, Kush 21 in my backyard in Washington State. If more people want to learn about how to get a hold of you, either through legal stuff to be a client, get new licenses, or be on your podcast, Cannabis Legalization News, how can they get a hold of you? Where are you at?
Oh, you can go to cannabisindustrylawyer.com for the legal stuff, or like the licensing and the business stuff. We'll send you emails, but eventually we hope to be able to find a new AI marketing thing that'll allow us to send you texts. They're much more effective. And then if you want to see us on YouTube or our podcast, that's Cannabis Legalization News. We do have a website as well, cannabislegalizationnews.com. My company is collateral based, but it's one of these things where running a cannabis company in Canada is still very difficult, but at least it's legal. And then running an ancillary company in America is annoying. But that's one of the reasons why I have cannabisindustrylawyer.com. That's not the business name. Business name's collateral base, because bankers love collateral.
Yep. My banks have no idea what I'm doing. But with that, I think we're going to roll this one up. So I want to thank my guests, Elad Barak and Tom Howard. Appreciate you guys being on the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't. And I'm out. Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.